I discovered my wife cheating on me with her friend during a hike. She and her friends were using him as a substitute to satisfy their desires. But now I am getting a divorce despite her crying and manipulations. I, Ollie, 38 years old, am on a camping and hiking trip with my wife, Liv, 36 years old, and 3 other married couples. Domi, Kate, Sean, Sarah, Billy, and Miranda, along with a lifelong friend of the wives, Ian, 38 years old, and his boyfriend, ODI. His real name is Orlando, so no, he wasn't named after Garfield's dog. We are all between 30 and 40 years old and are outdoor enthusiasts. We have wanted to do this hike for some time. We camp at night and hike during the day. Everything was going well, but on the afternoon of the 3rd day of our 8-day hike, we stopped to camp. My wife and I decided to explore the area around our campsite. We found a small waterfall that fed into the stream, which mostly meandered near the trail we had been following. It was about 1.5 meters tall and fell onto hard rocks. My wife said she really wanted to rinse off in the stream and waterfall but didn't want to get her clothes wet. I told her to go for it, as we weren't far from the others, but this place was quite secluded. If she did it quickly, she could get in and out in no time. She did, maybe lingered for a second, then came out and tried to air dry, mostly drying herself as best she could with a small hand towel we had. After putting on her shorts and underwear all at once, Ian appeared from behind some trees. My wife was still completely naked from the waist up. This is where it got weird. Neither of them reacted. She just continued dressing calmly, and he kept approaching as if he had seen those breasts 100 times. He said something, I can't even remember at this point, that Dom wanted us to know. My wife and he exchanged some trivial words, and then we all returned to the camp. It's the 5th day now. The hiking trail reaches a small village at this point, and there is a small local in that caters to hikers. We had planned to spend the night here to let everyone have a good night's rest, replenish supplies, etc. I have been thinking about what happened at the waterfall for 2 days. I am doing my best to hide it, but my wife asked me this morning why I was so quiet yesterday. I just said I was tired, but in reality, I can't shake the idea that something has happened between them before. I shouldn't have suspicions, but I know Ian is bisexual, not gay. I've known this man for about 8 years and would also consider him a friend. We husbands and ODI are the only outsiders here. The 4 wives and Ian have been friends since college. I have asked my wife in the past if she ever dated Ian, and she always said no. I asked if Ian and any of the other women in the group were ever a couple, and she also said no. I might just be paranoid, but the way they interacted while she was still topless was so familiar. Normally, my wife is quite reserved about her body, so not reacting at all to his approach seemed strange to me. I really have no reason to believe something wrong is happening, although I am starting to wonder if there is more to their past than just friends. Am I being paranoid? Is this a red flag? I am really trying not to jump to conclusions. Update 1. It's very early here on the morning of the 6th day for an update. I talked to my wife, Liv, about what happened at the waterfall. I wanted to do it while we still had some privacy before getting back on the trail, and I'm glad I did. I started in the least confrontational way possible, just saying it seemed a bit strange that she didn't get alarmed by his presence, even though she was topless. If she had responded differently, I probably would have left it, but she got very defensive immediately. Is that why you've been moody? It's no big deal. Everyone has seen boobs before, even Ian. You need to grow up. This was really alarming for me. She normally doesn't react aggressively unless she feels guilty about something. I kept pressing, and she got more reactionary and defensive, trying to deflect and downplay every question I asked, with a bit of minor gaslighting included. Finally, I had enough of this and told her, either you tell me what's going on, or I will confront Ian. You know he won't lie. This is where Liv admitted that she and Ian had a sexual relationship in the past. I got angry and asked why she lied when I had asked in the past. She said she didn't lie. They never dated, just had a friends with benefits situation right before we became official. I asked in a very surprised and upset tone, so you were sleeping with him when we started dating? She snapped back, you don't have to be so vulgar. I don't want to talk about this right now. We can have this conversation when the trip is over. I responded immediately, absolutely not. Either you tell me everything now, or I will start interrogating your friends. You know Ian won't lie. She could see the sincerity in my threats and just let the whole truth flow. The first part one knew. She had had a series of unfortunate dating experiences. Liv attributed much of this to not knowing the other person well before sleeping with them. When we started dating, she asked me to take things slowly. I agreed because I was also looking for someone special, and in this case, I was very interested in Liv. She told me at the beginning of our relationship that I was free to date other people until we decided to be official. I told her I wouldn't, as I wasn't interested in dating multiple people and wanted to focus on one relationship at a time. She then told me that made her very happy. She then continued revealing things about her group of friends that would shake everyone if they came to light. Apparently, Liv, Kate, Miranda, and Sarah all had similar friends with benefit situations with Ian while they were dating their current husbands. So shortly after college, Kate, who was married to Dom, was fed up with dating people. She kept choosing the wrong guys. Meanwhile, she and Ian became friends with benefits. When she met Dom, she asked to take things slowly and really get to know each other before making things physical. Kate said it was possible to do this because she was still sleeping with Ian, which allowed her to satisfy her physical needs, allowing her to focus on the emotional side when dating Dom. Ian agreed to this arrangement and let her know that this was only about finding her special person. They would talk about Dom and sleep together. Once Kate felt she had really found the one, they ended the benefits and started her physical relationship with Dom and eventually got married. Kate later told the women all about this. Over the years, each of them has used Ian as their substitute while searching for the right one. I am just the latest in all of this. I asked my wife to explain the details of her part. The other women's marriages are their business. But how did this unfold for her? She said that after her previous boyfriend turned out to have too many narcissistic traits, she had enough and really wanted to meet a good guy. I guess that was me. She talked to Ian about helping her the way he had helped the other three. He said he would definitely help and that this was all about finding her a life partner. I believe his sincerity in all of this. He is a free spirit. I have had deep conversations with him. The type of person who would help anyone with anything. We play golf together. He has been in my life since I started dating Liv. I didn't realize how involved he was, obviously. Basically, he listened, gave advice, talked about feelings, and made efforts so she could bear waiting until she felt we knew each other well enough. I literally felt like vomiting. I feel like our relationship was a big lie. Despite this, I kept digging for more pain. I asked, "When did you stop doing this?" She said, "When we became official." I told her I felt we were official when we agreed to date, so when was that for her? She said, "We were dating. That doesn't make two people officially a couple. The night I asked you to commit to me and we had sex for the first time. Ian and I have only been platonic friends since that night." I pointed out, "That was 7 months after we started dating. You were sleeping with him for 7 months the whole time." She stayed quiet and I knew the answer. I said, "So let me get this straight. I would pick you up for a date. We would go out and have a wonderful time, holding hands, cuddling, kissing. Then I would drop you off, you would meet Ian, and then have sex and talk about how good of a guy I am." She replied, "Don't make it sound so dirty." I was horrified. I wanted to run away, but I had taken myself to the middle of nowhere and had no way back other than to keep walking forward. In retrospect, I wish I had done that. Instead, I decided to keep digging for more details. I asked, "When you say you slept together, do you mean you used him just to get off? Or do you mean you did all the positions, foreplay, dirty stuff, and so on that we do?" She stayed very quiet. I said calmly, "You need to answer my questions. I need to know, and I will find out whether from you or one of them." And with that, I pointed in the direction where everyone else was. She very quietly said, "Everything, even more than with you." The room was spinning at that point, but I still asked the worst question. "When was the last time?" She replied, "The night before our first time." I never wanted to walk away from someone more at that moment, but I just stood there, broken. She tried to console me and I told her to stay away. I needed time. I had nowhere to go. So I just took some blankets and pillows and put them on the floor at the foot of the bed. I fell asleep for a few hours, but now I am awake, posting this update. I want to get out of here, but at the end of this trail is a 12-passenger van for which I don't have the keys. I will have to stay with these people for 2.5 more days and another half day of travel back. I don't know what to do. Part of me can see the logic, but mostly I am hurt and feel like our entire relationship was a long con. I feel like a silver medal as well. I have an overwhelming urge to bring this to light in front of everyone. All these other guys went through the same thing. We are all here under false pretenses. I don't know what to do. I have about an hour before everyone wakes up. Then I will have to face Ian and my wife. Am I overreacting? Is this marriage worth saving? I don't see how we can go back. Update 2. I am back in the comfort of my own home. Unfortunately, I and several others might be contemplating the idea of divorce. I was able to stay fairly centered for most of the 6th day, though I am sure everyone knew something was up with me. I was very quiet and kept trying to rush the pace to get back to the van. I guess around lunchtime was when Liv took Ian aside and told him what I knew. At that point, Ian started trying to approach and talk to me, though I told him to leave me alone. He persisted a few more times until I finally had enough and told him very firmly to drop it. Liv intervened then, and they both got the hint that I needed more time to process this. The next 24 hours went by well enough. Everyone just left me alone. However, after my reaction to Ian, he completely changed his demeanor. He went from being his usual relaxed self to being somewhat distant with everyone. He would occasionally make small, passive-aggressive comments, nothing too obvious but clearly directed at me. We reached the night of the 7th day and set up camp. I had relaxed a bit and was being a bit more social with everyone. We were sitting around the campfire, cooking the last of our food. People were talking, joking, telling stories. Billy told everyone a long, embarrassing story about him in high school. It's a pretty funny story about him and his first girlfriend, where he acts like a complete idiot. When he finished, he made some comment like, "I still can't believe I was that dumb. It's still embarrassing to think about it." After that, Ian commented, "Well, at least you matured. Some people never mature and get over the past." Then looked directly at me with a condescending look. At that moment, I had a sort of out-of-body experience. I saw only red. The filter was gone. Reason was on. "You know, Ian, you're right. Sometimes we have to face the past head-on." At that moment, Liv tried to interrupt me, but I completely ignored her. "How about we address the fact that you used to have sex with all our wives while we were dating?" Even the insects went silent when I said that. "Oh, guys, you didn't know either?" Yes, while they made us wait to build a connection, I did air quotes. Our future wives were using Ian here as their human dildo. Dom and Billy looked confused and angry. Sean had a look on his face like he had just caught his grandmother doing something inappropriate. Just total train wreck shock. But I wasn't done. I turned to Dom. Was it Kate who came up with this brilliant plan? She discovered that the key to building a lasting relationship was to take things slow, get to know each other before going to bed. All you need to manage the urges is a best friend willing to satisfy you when you get home from your hot dates. At this point, Dom intervened. "Fuck off, Ollie. How do you know all this?" "Oh, I just found out 2 days ago when I took Liv for drinks. That wasn't going to be the only thing she was swallowing that night." At that moment, Liv lost her composure and started screaming at me. "Why are you doing this? You don't need to." But she was cut off when Sean stood up. "It's true. It's all true." Everyone fell silent and looked at him. I knew since we were dating. I didn't know it was the case for everyone else until after we got married. I could have warned Billy. I swear I didn't know it was the case back then. Billy had a look of immense terror on his face. "Sean, we went on double dates with Miranda and Sarah. We would go out and then drop them off at Ian's house afterward. That means they." Sean just looked at him and nodded. I immediately turned to Ian. "2 at a time?" Arguments were erupting between the couples everywhere when an audible sigh and a groan drew everyone's attention. ODI was sitting there with thick tears rolling down his face. He looked at Ian. More lies. Never ends. No matter how many times I forgive. No matter how many times I take you back." Then he slapped him and turned and walked down the trail. Ian ran after him. The other 3 couples muttered between themselves and then each started to head off in separate directions. I stayed by the fire feeling triumphant. Liv came up to me and said, "I hope you're happy." I quickly looked her in the eyes and said, "I've never been more fucking happy with myself in my entire life. I am 80-20 in favor of divorce right now. I recommend leaving me alone until we are home, unpacked, showered, and fed, because the only thing you will accomplish before that is to make me 100. With that, she turned and walked into our tent. The next day was the most awkward 7 hours of my life between the morning of packing up, the hike to the van, loading everything, and the 4.5-hour drive back home. About 19 words were said in total. I am sitting in my bathroom freshly showered. I am going to eat some chicken nuggets, drink 3 Dr. Peppers, and then talk to my wife. I don't know where we go from here or where each of us will end up, but I know it won't be pretty either way. Update 3. It's been 4 weeks since we got back from the trip, and everything seems to have collapsed. Dom and Kate are getting a divorce. They've been together longer than all our couples and have a 10-year-old child. Dom took the revelation extremely hard. Besides being the longest-running couple, he had the longest courting period of 9 months. It has been very difficult for him to accept that the time was so long because Kate didn't want to stop being with Ian. I sat down with Sean and had some beers one night. We've been quite good friends over the years, though we only met through our wives. Sean told me that Sarah was honest with him from the beginning. When they started dating, she said she wanted to wait at least 3 months before having sex. But she also told him she would continue seeing her friend with benefits. Sean really liked her, but also informed her that he was only dating casually until he was sure. And Sarah said that was fine. So unlike us, Sean was also dating other people during this time. 2 weeks before the 3 months were up and after some double dates with Billy and Miranda, Sean realized he was falling in love with Sarah and told her he wanted exclusivity. She set aside the 3-month minimum, and that same night they were intimate for the first time and never looked back. Honesty seems to have served him well since Sean told me they had a small fight, but only because Sarah thought they should have excused themselves from the whole camp scene instead of stepping in. Overall, they are doing fine as a couple thanks to that honesty. I also have an update on Billy and Miranda. They are in the early stages of reconciliation. Billy is obviously and rightfully having a hard time. He feels she cheated and is using semantics to justify it. They dated for 6 months before making their relationship official. They have 3 children under 7 years old, so they both feel they have to try for the kids. Billy's biggest struggle is clearly remembering dropping off Miranda and Sarah at Ian's house on 2 different occasions, knowing she was dating him while planning a threesome. Apparently, Miranda has tried to tell him that only one of those times they did something and that it wasn't really a threesome, but rather a reverse train situation. Again, semantics to justify it. Sean tells me Miranda is telling the truth, as Sarah was the other person involved and confirmed it wasn't a true threesome. But does that really matter? Ian reached out to me to apologize. I told him to fuck off and then blocked him. ODI also reached out. I guess my revelation was the straw that broke the camel's back. We actually chatted quite a bit over a week, even though we were just friendly acquaintances before. It turns out Ian and ODI have had an on and off relationship for 15 years. While Ian projects this laid-back, uninterested image everywhere, ODI knows he is extremely self-centered and manipulative. He often breaks up with ODI for short periods or says they are on a break to do what he wants because he's not a cheater, only to come crawling back once he's had his fun. In hindsight, ODI realizes at least 2 of these breakups coincided with these hookups. However, ODI feels bad for tolerating it for so long and giving him chance after chance. He says this was enough. He is moving back to Santa Barbara and leaving Ian and the cold Midwest behind for good. As for Liv and me, we had the longest conversation despite being exhausted when we got back from the hike. I told her clearly that I wasn't interested in discussing, debating, or anything of the sort. I told her, "Tell me everything you want to say. I won't interrupt. I won't ask questions until you're done. Then I want the same courtesy." She agreed. It was all apologies and justifications. She admitted it was wrong to do, then gave a reason why it was okay or pointed out a positive outcome. She expressed being very hurt and upset by how I behaved at the camp, but acknowledged that Ian was equally at fault for continuing to provoke me. When she finished, she asked if I had any questions for her, and I said no. Then it was my turn. I told her our entire relationship is built on false premises. I acknowledged that the logical part of my brain could see where she was coming from and why she tried the friends with benefits arrangement. Her 3 best friends did this, and they all got great husbands before her. But on some level, the 4 of them had to know it was wrong to start a relationship like this. I told her it was extremely painful to know she was sleeping with another person and that I believe it slowed the natural progress of our relationship. It fundamentally changed my memories of our early days together. I asked her, "Do you remember about 4.5 months into our relationship? We had that amazing day we spent together, the whole day ending with us back on my couch. We were kissing. Your shirt was off. I was caressing you over your shorts. It was getting pretty intense and you stopped. You apologized, said you really wanted to do it, but just weren't quite ready. You wanted to be absolutely 100%. I said that was okay. You looked at me lovingly, gave me a passionate kiss before leaving. I can only assume you left my house and went to Ian's." She just stood there with tears rolling down her face. I said, "Am I right?" She just nodded. I then said, "I put that energy into you. You chose not to return it to me, but to give it to someone else. I might be able to get over it if the thing with him ended in the 1st or 2nd month when we were more casual. But we kept spending a lot of time together after that, and you kept seeing him until the last day before our commitment. You liked having both of us. You did all the mental gymnastics you needed to justify it to yourself." I told her, "Perhaps you don't even realize that the worst part for me is finding out you were much more adventurous and exciting with him is like a knife in the heart. It makes me feel like the second best, like a retirement plan you settled for, that I am just good enough. She interrupted and started telling me, "It's not like that. I love you. He was just sex. It wasn't real. It's easier to be loose and wild with those who don't matter." And so on. I waited for her to finish and then just said, "Remember, we agreed it was my turn to talk." I then told her, "I understand that may be your perspective, but it's not mine. As your husband, I feel it is my duty to give you my best and most of my energy. My emotional, physical, mental, and sensual energy, and so on. I feel I have done that for these 8 years. I believe you have given your best in some areas, but now I know I haven't received your best in some others. And as a man, I must admit that sensual energy is very important to me. Knowing that I wasn't worthy of all your sensual energy, that you didn't trust me with that, is the deal breaker. I don't think I can get over this, and I intend to file for divorce." The scene got chaotic after that, with her crying intensely, begging, offering, pleading for us to start over. I ended up walking away from the situation. Later, she mentioned that we are in an emotional place right now and that I need to give this some time. This made me stop and reflect. I agreed to her term of giving it 3 weeks. As I said, it has now been 4, and my feelings haven't changed. We met with a mutual divorce lawyer who will represent us both. There are no children involved, and we both want to leave the house, so it was a smooth initial meeting. She has been extremely depressed, and so have I, but this is for the best. Sometimes things just don't work out. Update 4. Liv and I are officially divorced, the same as Dom and Kate. It's been 8 months since I updated, and without a doubt, this was the best path. As for the other couples, they are still together but have had to start couples therapy as they clearly weren't okay, at least from what Sean and Billy have told me when I've seen them. If you ask me, I would have filed for divorce, but it's not like I can force them. It's their life. As for Liv and me, she continued looking for excuses to downplay everything and get us back together. But the idea of her trying to manipulate me with words to forgive her angered me more. So none of that worked for her and we just got divorced. I got a house and Liv, I have no idea. I haven't kept in touch, nor do I plan to. Who I have talked to is ODI, with whom I now have a good relationship. Many in the comments jokingly said I should be with him, but I don't like men, so that's not going to happen in the future. Anyway, ODI is a very good person and deserves better than Ian. As for Sean and Billy's wives, they have decided to cut contact with Ian. But that's the problem. How do you trust that they will really do it? As for Liv and Kate, I guess they are now free to use him as a friend with benefits. Nothing is stopping them, but at least on my part, I don't care anymore. For me, that woman can do whatever she wants now.